Okay, I have a brand new effect for you today, and I call it Suitable. And as you can see, I have all of the face cards and also the aces mixed together quite well, as is readily apparent. Now, since we both have seen the cards, why don't we go ahead and mix them a little bit. This is called the Charlier Shuffle. I can add a link in the description below to this shuffle. It's a great way to mix the cards. In fact, I'd like to have you come in here and just cut the cards and complete the cut wherever you would like. Okay, so you just come in here, cut, complete the cut. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just take the cards and Klondike shuffle 1, 2, 3, 4 pairs into one pile, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 pairs into another pile. Okay? And you're free to choose either pile as your pile, and I'll take the remaining one. You want the one on the left? Okay, that's fine. Okay, so I'll take this one. Very good. Okay, now each of us need to just deal out our cards into 2 piles from left to right, just like this. Okay? And of course, you would be across the table from me. So from left to right, it would look like this from your vantage point. Okay? And now I need you to decide, this is very, very important actually. We're going to switch 2 of these piles if you would like to, or you may choose to not switch any of them. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to either switch the diagonal piles like these 2, or these 2, or none of them at all. Okay, so there's 3 options there. Which of those would you like? You want to switch these 2 right here, this diagonal pair? Okay, that's fine. So we'll switch those. Okay, and now I'm going to have you decide everything for my cards as well. So how do you want me to stack my piles? You want left on right for me, and then you're free to stack yours in whatever order you would like. You can do it like that. Also, if you like, that would be just fine. Okay, now each of us is going to deal out our piles into 2 piles with random stacking. And if I had 2 spectators here, a spectator would play the role of each of these. But since I'm assuming just 1 spectator, I'll have you make all of the decisions here. Okay, so for my pile, how many times do you want me to deal out my cards into 2 piles? Okay, so I'll begin to do it. Okay. Okay, that's just once. How would you like those piles stacked? Left on right? My left on my right? Should I do that any additional times? A left or right shuffle. One more time. Okay. How do you want the piles stacked now? Left on right again. Okay, very good. Now for your pile, I would just hand it to you, and then you can deal out as many times as you like. Okay. Stack them in whatever order you would like. Now maybe you'll choose to do it 3 times. Okay, and that's fine. Maybe you'll stack it that way the next time. Okay. And this way the 3rd time. And maybe you'll even want to do it 1 more time. Okay. You'll stack like that. That's just fine. Okay. Now to finish, all we're going to do is we're going to take each of our packets here, and that Klondike shuffle that I showed you earlier, we're going to Klondike pairs of cards to the table. Okay, that's all we're going to do, if the cards would stop sticking. So we have 4 pairs that came from my pile, and then you would do the same. Just take the top and bottom off as 1. Top and bottom off is 1. Same thing there, and the final pair right there. Okay. Well, you might wonder why this routine is called Suitable. Well, I think things will become a bit more clear if we take a look at the written prediction that I wrote before we even began anything here. Okay, we didn't do any mixing or dealing. I had already written this up. Okay, so what's the written prediction? You will both pair up your cards by suit. Okay, I'm seeing it here. Suitable. Okay, that's what it's talking about. Well, now we have to find out. Okay, this is your set of 4. Did you pair up your cards by suit? Okay, well, that's pretty good. You did there. 2 diamonds. Okay, 2 hearts. 2 clubs. 2 spades. Okay, wow, you're doing really well. 4 for 4. I don't know if I'll do as well as you. Okay, 2 clubs, 2 diamonds, 2 hearts, and of course 2 spades as the final pair. That is incredibly surprising. Given the state of the cards at the beginning and all of the mixing that we did and the random choices made by you along the way. That is amazing. Okay, well, if you do everything that I did, this will work for you perfectly. So let me just show you the setup really fast. So put all of the cards of the same suit. So diamonds, clubs, hearts, and spades. And then you might want to alternate colors. Okay. And now what we're going to do is just, this is the quote setup. Okay. So this is done ahead of time. It's not the only way to set up the packet, really. You can do it however you like. All we really need is we need the cards to alternate by suit. Okay, that's really all we need. Okay, but it's nice to have a good mixture. This looks fairly decent, I guess. If you look at the original organization, the kings, queens, and jacks, and the aces, they were kind of randomly interspersed among themselves. But there was a consistent ordering of the suits, which is what we should have here as well, right? So it looks like it's diamond, club, heart, spade all the way through, okay? Now, if you don't show that for very long, most spectators will not have enough time to pick up on that. And that's partly because face cards are pretty complex visually because of all of the designs on them, okay? And then you can gather these up. So we call this a 4 cycle with cycle length 4. It's cycle length 4 because we have the 4 suits that are repeating, and they're repeating a total of 4 times. So that's why it's a 4 cycle with cycle length 4. Okay, so I gathered that up. I did a Charlier shuffle that preserves cyclic structures, which is what we have here. You can have the spectator randomly cut the packet. That won't hurt that characteristic. Now, the important step is this one here with the Klondike shuffle. When you Klondike pairs of cards to the table, here we have 16 cards total, and it's cyclic. It's a 4 cycle with cycle length 4. If you Klondike pairs of cards into one pile, total of 8 of them, like that right there, this is guaranteed to be a mirrored structure, mirrored arrangement of the cards. What does that mean? That means that cards of the same suit are kind of opposite each other relative to the center. So you have clubs on the outer ends, hearts, diamonds, and spades. Okay, so each of us actually have the same, we have an identical mirrored structure relative to suit. We're not really concerned about the values here, whether it's a king, queen, or ace, just the suits. Okay, so both of these are mirrored. So what we did next was we just dealt out into 2 piles, left, right. Okay, that's fine. And then I'm assuming that you're sitting over here, so your left to right would look like this. Okay, because you're on the opposite side of the table to me. Okay. Now what is going to happen is these diagonal pairs, we call them coupled piles. Why are they coupled? It's because at each level you have cards of the same suit. So top card, heart, spade, diamond, club. Okay, and the same thing here. These will be, quote, coupled. Okay, whereas the piles across the rows are what we call mirrored piles. What are mirrored piles? This is where, you can show everything here. This is where they're the mirror image, right? So we have a heart down here, but a heart up there. We have a club up here and a club down there, and then they're just the mirror image of each other. Okay. Okay, and that's one of the reasons that we can do the left to right dealing later with random stacking as many times as we like because of the stay stack principle. But I allowed you to switch these two piles, which are identical relative to the suit arrangement, or these two, which are identical relative to the suit arrangement, or to not switch any of them. Okay, and I think you switch those. So we could switch these this time. Doesn't matter how these are stacked. These are still, quote, mirrored piles. Okay. Now at this point we may not be in sync anymore, and that's fine. Individually, we're still looking at a mirrored packet where you have club, diamond, spade, heart. Now for me now, it's going to be heart on the end, spade, diamond, club. Okay. But that's okay. It won't hurt anything that's coming. And then each of us is free to deal out the cards into as many times as we like. So you deal them out into two piles. We can do that because of the stay stack principle. And the stay stack principle says if you have a mirrored packet and that is dealt out into a number of piles, where that number of piles divides evenly into the packet size, stacking from left to right or right to left will preserve that characteristic. Okay, so this is, quote, still mirrored, and I'll add a link in the description below to the stay stack principle. That's a really important one in mathematical card magic. So you can deal out into two piles with random stacking as many times as you like. The same thing here. In fact, if we wanted to, we could have dealt out into four piles with random stacking from left to right or right to left, but I just didn't want it to get too complicated as a routine, so we just did left to right dealing. Okay, and then once each pile is mixed to the satisfaction of the individual, all we have to do now is, in fact, I'll even show it to you face up, because this is mirrored, it's going to bring together cards of the same suit. Okay, we're doing it face up. Supposed to be doing it face down, right? But so this is just showing that when you have a mirrored structure relative to some characteristic, the Klondike Shuffle will bring those cards together, and it does. And then you can bring out your prediction. I'm not even sure if you need to have a written prediction because of the name of this routine. Suitable will kind of tip people off, or at least they'll make the connection of, oh, okay, I can see why this routine is called that, because we're matching up the cards perfectly by suit. Okay, well, that's the secret, and so I hope you enjoy that, and I encourage you to take a look at other videos on the Absolute Math Magic channel.